Well, if you've spent any time at all online, then you have seen advertisements from Roman, Hims, Bluechew, all of these companies selling you medications where the advertisement says, this drug has not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. And a lot of people see that and they think, what the heck? What are they trying to sell me here? Is this dangerous? I thought all medications had to be approved by the FDA. So let's talk about that. What we're talking about today are compounded medications, but I think to understand compounded medications, you first have to understand non-compounded medications. So what I have right here is good old generic sildenafil. Sildenafil is the active ingredient in Viagra, and that's where it started its life. It was developed by Pfizer, the huge drug company, in the 1990s. And it was discovered that it could treat erectile dysfunction, and that's what it was tested by the FDA to do, and granted FDA approval in the 1990s. Pfizer also had a patent on the drug because they're the one that invented it, discovered it, however you want to think about this. And patents on drugs typically last about 20 years. All right. But that FDA approval process can often take up to 10 years. So simple math is drug companies generally have about 10 years to really cash in on their discovery before it can become a generic when that patent runs out. And that's what's happened with Viagra. This isn't Viagra. This is the active ingredient in Viagra. You can now get it as a generic at any pharmacy in the country because the patent ran out. All right. But the generics in these cases are still FDA approved. But if you take this ingredient right here, sildenafil, and put it into something like a compounded medication, like this is our ED medication called Shameless Duo, and it has sildenafil in it along with tadalafil. Tadalafil is the active ingredient in Cialis. That doesn't matter. I'm just telling you that because this comes from a compounding pharmacy and it's compounded, it is not FDA approved and it cannot be FDA approved. Even if the ingredients in a tablet form like this are FDA approved, once they're compounded, cannot be FDA approved and is not FDA approved. So let's talk about compounding pharmacies, all right? Compounding is one of two things. Generally speaking, I'm kind of putting this in layman's terms because, well, that's kind of what I am too, to be honest with you. Even though I'm in the business, I'm just telling you what I know about it, all right? Compounding pharmacies basically do one of two things. One is they mix multiple ingredients together. Now, this can be as simple as, my wife's a veterinarian, for example. Let's say that your cat needs an allergy med, but your cat will only eat it if it's mixed in with some tuna flavoring. That's perfect for a compounding pharmacy, a veterinary compounding pharmacy, perfect for that, right? Make your life so much easier. That's what a compounding pharmacy does. Or this is a mixture of two different ED medications together. Boom, that's also perfect for a compounding pharmacy. But again, nothing that a compounding pharmacy manufactures can call itself FDA approved. All right. The other thing that a compounding pharmacy can do is basically bootleg drugs that are still under patent, copy them against the wishes of the company that holds the patent and sell them if the FDA has declared a shortage on that drug. So that's what happened with Ozempic. Every doctor in the country, more or less, was prescribing Ozempic. The manufacturer couldn't possibly keep up with demand. The FDA declared a shortage, and compounding pharmacies across the country started copying the drug against the wishes of the patent holder and selling it. This isn't Ozempic. I'm not sure why I was holding this up, but I'm just giving you an example here. Now, compounding pharmacies are often inspected by the FDA, in particular sterile compounding pharmacies. These are pharmacies that make things that you might inject inside of your body. It's a little bit more at stake than something that makes, I don't know, an under-the-tongue lozenge, for example. And so even when the facilities are inspected by the FDA, the things they make are not and cannot be approved by the FDA. That's just a simple way that it works. It doesn't mean that the things that Bluechew and Roman and Hims and everybody else is trying to sell you are not safe. So you may be wondering, well, how do I know if they are safe? Well, I think you have to trust the doctors involved, and I think you have to trust the pharmacies involved. And I don't know that you can necessarily do that just because they have enough money for a lot of social media ads. I think one of the things that you need to do is look at their Trustpilot rating. I think that's really critically important. Actually go to Trustpilot's website and look at it and see what kind of results people are getting. I think you can also look to see if they have a legit script certification. That's probably the number one thing, because if they have that legit script certification, then Legit Script has looked at all of the doctors' license numbers. They've looked at the pharmacy's license numbers. Legit Script pretty well knows what's going on with telemedicine around the United States anyway. So that's it. It does not mean that those drugs aren't safe. I'd say that you can pretty well bet that they are safe in almost every circumstance, but just know that the FDA isn't the one determining if they are safe or not. I'm Robert from Shameless Care. I hope you found that useful. We'll talk soon.